In this lesson, we're going to begin planning out the dynamics for our scene. Okay, so what we want to do with this specific project is we want to basically just blow up this bridge. Okay, and I want to do it in kind of a different way. I don't want to just blow up the entire thing and then just have pieces flying around everywhere. There's a specific type of animation that I'm looking for. I want to blow up part of the bridge on this side. And what I want with my end result is basically just this chunk on the front side taken out and still part of the bridge still there on this side. Okay? And then I want these statues to fall down. Okay? And I want them to fall down, and they're going to be linked together by chains, and I want them to fall down and the chains to kind of destroy this side and this side. Okay? And then we're going to have kind of stand-in mannequins, and we're going to put them along the bridge, and we want them to fly in the air. We're going to create some ragdoll physics with them, kind of flying through the air, and I might even bring in just another object coming in and just kind of demolishing this side of the bridge as well. Okay. Now I want these pedestals to be falling down and to be fracturing and just a lot of destruction after all of this is done. But my bridge needs to look a certain way for my shot. So it takes a lot of careful planning just to get a specific look whenever you're finished. So like I said, we want kind of this cookie cutter look. I don't want this side to be completely taken out. And I want this side to be completely taken out in kind of a way. I want the end piece to still be there, just kind of a hole over here, just a separation in the bridge. Okay. Now, talking about destroying geometry, okay, we need to kind of make a list of the things that we want to do and then start thinking about how we can actually execute that solution. So the first thing that we have is we said that we wanted to blow up the bridge, and we wanted to blow up into different chunks. Okay. Well, looking at 3ds Max, we really don't have a whole lot of tools that will allow me to cut something like this up into different chunks and to actually make it look good. I could use the Pro Cutter tool, but that would just take a really, really long time, and that just really would be out of the scope of this particular project. And frankly, it's really not all that smart. It just takes a really long time, and if time is overtaking what it's worth, then it's really not worth doing. Also, I had mentioned that I want to create some chains from the shackles here, just binding those together. So I need to kind of think of a way to make that happen. Okay. I want to also have this break up into different ways. Okay. So a couple of things. Got a few things on my list, so I need to start looking at some solutions. So to fracture our bridge, I went ahead and I did a little bit of research, and I found a very nice Mac script called Fracture by Voronoi. And I'm going to go to my Mac script and run script, just so you can see the name here. And you can see Fracture Voronoi. And I found that, and what that's going to allow me to do is actually select objects in my scene and fracture them into chunks. And it actually makes them into chunks, not just hollow shells. And then I found another one called Brickerizer, which I thought would be useful too in my project. So I went ahead and downloaded it just in case. Now, I downloaded it from scriptspot.com, but you can just type in these names here into whatever search engine you want to use, and you can find them that way. Or you can just go to scriptspot.com and then search their website for these as well. Okay. Now I went ahead and I put them in my downloads folder because that's probably where you are going to find those scripts once you've downloaded them from those websites. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep them there. Alright, so that's going to help me with fracturing everything apart. And I'm going to kind of talk about some solutions that we'll come up with for creating the chains, and then we'll come up with solutions for creating just kind of the stand-in people that are going to be flying around with ragdolls and that sort of thing. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get into a couple of tips that we need to think about whenever we start our Dynamics production. Okay, first tip that I want to give you is that Dynamics can be very hardware intensive. So if you're on a lower end computer, you might have a little bit of trouble working throughout this course, and it's just going to be kind of a slower process. Every now and then at the top, you might see 3ds Max not responding. And you need to just go ahead and wait it out, because 3ds Max is applying modifiers or applying dynamics, that sort of thing. So you just need to kind of be patient with it. Now, another tip that we need to remember throughout this course is that we don't want to make everything dynamic. Okay, we do want to make everything a rigid body, but we may not want to make everything dynamic. I don't want everything to just fall apart and completely crumble. We need to use a mixture of kinematics and static rigid bodies as well as our dynamic rigid bodies. Okay. Now, we also need to remember that dynamics require proper scale. So we want to use real-world units because we have our gravity set to a real-world acceleration, and we want kind of a realistic simulation here. So we need to make sure that everything is sized up properly. Now, if you've built out something on your own and you didn't actually check your scale before you started, everything should be fine. Okay, because what you can do is actually group everything and then scale it up using the scale tool. Now, to actually check your units, you need to go to Customize, Unit Setup. Okay, and what I did is I went ahead and went to US Standard, and I'm just using the feet with decimal inches. Okay, we'll hit OK. Now, to actually measure your objects, you kind of have an idea of how tall it should be. And I know that this is a very, very large bridge. Okay, and I wanted it to be about 100 feet high on just the bridge itself, and then the towering statues and that sort of thing. So this is going to be about 200 feet or so. I wanted this to be extremely large. Now, to actually check the size, you can go to your Create panel, Helpers, and use your tape and measure your geometry. Now, the way I do this is I go ahead and I turn on my snaps, and I go to my front view by hitting F on the keyboard, and then I'll actually click and drag this up, and you can see right here I'm about 250 feet. Okay, I might scale this down a little bit if I wanted to, but I think I'm okay with the actual scale here. So I'm going to right click and actually hit delete on the keyboard to delete out that tape measure. I'm going to go back to my perspective view just so we can see our scene here. So we have a list of things that we want to do with this dynamic scene. Okay, I want to blow up the bridge. I want some of these pedestals to fall over, and I want some of them to crumble. I want these statues to actually fall down because the chains are pulling them down. Okay, and I want this side to be completely destroyed, whereas this one is only going to be partially destroyed. Okay, so we know what we're going for. So what we're going to do in our next lesson is go ahead and start breaking apart our different pieces and getting this ready for our dynamics scene. Okay? So I'll see you in the next lesson.